All right, so here we are, Cristina. See, Alex, you have the webcam closed. We cannot see you. Anyway, so Cristina, I leave the word to you so you can have an introduction of this panel, and good luck.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome to another Revenue Manager Series episode. Deniel, you're one of the regulars here. Pablo, you as well. So it's great to approach this topic together, and of course have also BEONx be able to bring their technological know-how into the conversation. I think we've got such an important topic to talk about. Alex, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Chris.
Excellent. Well, I'd love to hear from all of you. I think just a couple of thoughts before we start the conversation. I think we've, why is it such an important topic of conversation? And we see so much pressure and revenue being squeezed, especially due to inflation, continuing and pressing, which means costs are continuing to going up. And whilst we've really enjoyed ADR and has reached some of the highest records in history, especially for the past couple of years, the costs are increasing as well. So top line revenue at some point has to come down, because we've seen a lot of the pent up savings being spent, and very unlikely that we're going to be able to continue raising the rates and raising our ADR to the levels we've seen in the past couple of years. So we need to do something more than just think about top line revenue, and to really maintain a sustainable growth. The focus really needs to be on the bottom line and increasing that profit margin. But also, I think the cost element is so high up on the agenda of all the various departments, and cutting costs is one of the daily topics in the P&Ls of all these meetings. And I think it needs to be brought more into the commercial department, because we can't really continue taking all of those decisions without having the right data in front of us, and owners and operators who are not really, or they're stuck in their ways. They're going to find it very difficult to keep that sustainable growth. So with that being said, I think we've got a very good place to start the conversation. Where do we actually start? I would throw a question at you just to understand, what is your view on sustainable profitability? What does it mean to you to drive sustainable profitability? Shall we start with Deniel?
Yeah, sure. Hello everyone. Hi Chris, great to be here, back.
Welcome.
Live on stage. Well, I completely agree with your entry. I think that personally that revenue management is on its edge. Our profession has become so much more complex and data driven that top line isn't enough any longer, and especially not focusing only on room top line, on room revenue. So the revenue management, or the total revenue management, should be the base of our profession, and profit maximization just the next step. But it requires big change in the organization, in the structure, and I think it requires a lot of training, a lot of pursuance, a lot of patience, and yeah, but it is absolutely the thing to go to, and it can't be any way around this.
Absolutely, and I think a lot has to do with really being able to look back at the organizational culture, and what do we need to change to bring the people's attention to the bottom line. Alex, tell us from the point of view of BEONx. I know you're building this incredible vision of total profit platform that is sustainable, right? What does sustainable profitability mean to BEONx and to you?
So I think that for BEONx, it's been a very interesting journey for us, because I think that the whole industry has been a bit allergic to the whole word sustainable, in sense, with all the greenwashing and all that. And I think what we see and what we wanted to build and bring to the market it was a platform that was really able to actually, show where the money is, show how sustainability is actually connected with profitability. And from our perspective, we think about retaining revenue, generating new revenue, and really taking the revenues beyond the rooms to the destination, so the hotels can actually capture value and be more profitable. So I think that's, for us, it's part of what we are really trying to achieve. And obviously, we envisage a massive change in the industry where sustainability is going to be a decision-making factor for every guest. And that's going to help hotels be more profitable if they can display and showcase that they're actually more sustainable than the others in the marketplace.
And you said something really, really important. I mean, I heard a few very important sound bites. I heard sustainability. I heard the culture. I heard how do we move from selling a room to maximizing the entire potential of the asset, and focus on that profitability piece. Pablo, coming from the point of view of a consultant and also a trainer, right? Because Taduka's really focused on driving knowledge and empowering people to make the right decisions. How do we change this organizational culture to shift more towards the profit management piece?
Sustainable profitability, right? So what I've done is ask ChatGPT to tell me what it means. And I mean, I won't read you the whole article, okay? But the 4 main points are economic viability, environmental responsibility, social impact, and ethical governance. That's what ChatGPT says about sustainable profitability. Thing is, any business to be sustainable needs to be profitable. Simple as that. Bar some startups and some unicorns that keep earning money even though they are not profitable. Fair enough. They are the exception. But in general, any hotel, any restaurant, any business in the hospitality industry, if it's not profitable, they have to close down. So we have to obviously focus not only on how much money we are making, how much money is coming in, but how much money we spend. As you were saying at the beginning, the costs are going up. We have to be more and more focused on the real profit. How much am I getting net at the end of the day, and see if it's getting better or worse than it used to be. So I think it's a very good conversation we're going to have today. Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. Deniel, tell us in practical terms, what are you working on to get that sustainability, that profitability culture cultural shift from revenue management to profit within your team and within your processes?
Well, on a practical level, the first thing we did a couple of years ago is to align all revenue generating departments under one umbrella. So we were quite fragmented a couple of years ago. And at one point we decided it just makes sense to bring everyone under one roof. So it's revenue management, distribution, it's e-commerce, it's BI, it's convention sales and reservations, which are now aligned under the commercial umbrella and the revenue umbrella especially. And then those departments are having just one strategy and one common goal. And this is about increasing revenue and increasing profitability. And along with this step, we have seen that everyone talks the same language, acts the same way, and is following one goal. And that makes it so much easier than having millions of departments with million heads and million VPs, which are running into different directions. So this clear structure makes it so much easier for us to be on this path towards total profitability and to keep the path, because as just previously mentioned correctly, we need to be profitable to be sustainable and to survive. So and this was one step towards this direction.
And you really need to understand, obviously, what the in-house guests are doing and what they're looking for, but also what the outside guests are doing and how you can really better cater to their needs. I think you said there a really important, let's say, objective of that common goal to align everyone around that revenue culture. But I think revenue still has to be holding the reins, right, to the revenue strategy and keeping everyone on their toes and keeping everyone informed. from, let's say, from a technological standpoint, Alex, what initiatives are you able to support with to provide that insight? So the revenue manager who holds the reins is able to educate all of those teams and be able to deliver the information and paint the picture of where the business is going and where the focus should be. Oh, I think we've got you on mute for a sec.
Okay, sorry. So I mean, from our side, I mean, we've got a pretty clear mandate, which is really how do we help hotels to actually connect with not only all the aspects of the hotels. I mean, we're just, for example, launching a tour operation module, which is quite amazing, which is a big chunk of some of the hotels, especially in the islands, in the Mediterranean. But I mean, so basically, how do we look at all areas of the hotel and how do we help them using intelligence to automate and to optimize rates and like you guys were mentioning, how do you retain revenue? How do you generate more? How do you have a full visibility on all the different data sources and all the numbers coming in and out? So we are really trying to help you look at the hoteliers have got so many. I mean, we kind of forget because we are within it. But the hotel industry is so complex that even like a lot of hoteliers, when they start looking at technology, they get lost because there's so many different parts of it. And I think we're trying to put it all together, trying to help hotels with connectivity as well. So if they want to bring some innovation into their mix, is not so complicated. It's easier as well. So I think from our side, we're trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and trying to empower revenue managers and help them going towards total profitability, like Deniel was mentioning. So it's definitely a massive challenge. I think it's not for the faint of heart, because in a lot of organizations you have, let's say, sales, sometimes upselling, sometimes revenue management, sometimes operations, and then loyalty, all kind of in different silos. And putting everything together, like Daniel was mentioning, it's really the key to making this work. Otherwise, you can't really take that next step to really becoming more profitable and more efficient.
And it'll be interesting to hear how, for instance, maximizing the space within our assets has a pretty important element in there, and really being able to monetize all of that available space. Understanding what revenue opportunities sits in every single one of your departments, apart from rooms where obviously it's the big revenue generator. But a lot of hotels might be getting 40 to 50% of their revenue from F&B or from golf or other streams of revenue, including spa. And I know that F&B has been very frequently treated as a cost center for many, many years. But I see it more and more ownership and brands converting it into a profit center, and looking at also the back office space and how they can monetize that and how they can really understand and digitalize more of the guest journey to enable that change. How would you look at, first of all, perhaps what is the right KPI that best describes this ability for us to maximize the space that we have within our properties and the utilization of that space, and really identify what is the amount of revenue, or how can we optimize that revenue per square meter? It'll be really interesting to hear from Pablo. Obviously, you come from various backgrounds, including resorts, where you have a lot of space to deal with, right? What sort of initiatives are key there?
I think you were saying, you need to understand that the pattern is changing, and the revenue coming from, say, F&B is growing compared to the total of the revenue for entire resort, entire hotel. And that needs to, we need to go backwards and really change the mindset of many hoteliers. In the past, hotels have had, some of them had a parking, some of them had a golf course, had a restaurant, a bar, just because sometimes they had to have center 4 or 5 stars, you needed to have a restaurant, you need to have a club, or whatever it is. Now we need to understand that most hotels, especially the lifestyle hotels or resorts and holiday places, that place It's a place where customers go to enjoy, to have a nice meal, to spend time with their friends and family, and also to sleep. So it's not anymore beds with maybe another restaurant. It's a place to enjoy overall 360 holistic, and also revenue coming from rooms. So for that, we need every single manager to understand all the KPIs from different outlets. For example, in a restaurant would be the RevPAR. So if you go to a marketing manager and ask him or her, do you know what RevPAR means? Probably doesn't know. Hopefully they will, but I would say in many cases they won't. And it's a challenge. So I'm going back to the previous question. It's like, are we aligned? Are we all going to the same targets? Because we haven't in the past. So marketing had a goal, sales had a different goal, finance had a different one, revenue had a different one. And all they were pulling in different directions. So we need to be aligned, sit down, same table and say, okay, what are our targets? What are our KPIs for all outlets? And based on that, what are we going to be pushing all together to make sure we maximize those KPIs so that profitability is maximized as well.
100%. And Deniel, I mean, you have a mix there of lots of urban properties, lots of resort properties, various type of properties as well. What sort of initiatives are you working on to squeeze more revenue potential out of, especially other outlets that you have running around the property, especially in resorts? Let's take, for example, F&B. F&B, there's so much potential behind, or profit potential behind managing restaurants and really understanding the margin that you can work with based on demand, based on for each dish, for example, or what stock do I have available, and what days of the week am I selling certain products, or what's my demographics there? Do you look at restaurants quite a bit? Do you do something about it? Do you really actively manage it? Give us a couple of examples of where you've been putting a lot of energy recently.
So I must admit that we differentiate in terms of F&B between restaurant and MICE. So we do have a lot of big MICE properties where we really focus on the F&B part, where we yield our daily delegate rates, where we yield our room hire, where we also decide about the items of daily delegate rate to make it more profitable. This is definitely a big part of or where we focus a lot on. But on the other hand, we are not a restaurant bar outlet driven company. So we do have space for improvement on this bit, to be brutally honest here, because this F&B part is or wasn't that profitable at our end. We had trouble finding staff and finding the chefs, and in the end it was sometimes more work than effort. So it's not our core competence. On the other hand, MICE revenue, completely different story, big focus, especially in terms of F&B.
Yeah, I think it deserves a dedicated, let's say, a dedicated team that is able to look at all the respective information relevant to each department and then inform the rest how it can sort of like integrate into the whole strategy. Alex, from a KPI standpoint, you give a lot of oversight to the role of the to the revenue manager to really understand where they should be spending more of the time, but also identify how each of those departments are doing. What KPIs should we look more at?
So we are really, I think we've learned something very interesting with resorts, like the likes of resorts that were actually looking at revenue per available guest, because they understood way before the pandemic how important each head was in a property. And when you think about total profitability and we think about how many guests are coming and what's the potential of each guest and what's the customer lifetime value, I think that's super, super powerful. And I think that has a massive impact on how we are actually able to make more profits in a hotel. So I think that the revenue per available guest for us at BEONx is definitely a metric, a KPI to be looking at, because like I mentioned, you've got the room revenue, but if you look at all the market studies around the world in hospitality, you see that the room revenues are sky high for sure. And like you said in the beginning of the conversation today, Cristina, I find it very hard for you to continue in the same way. If hotels continue doing it, you end up burning destinations, and people move from going to city A to city B, or to destination A to destination B. So really, being able to capture those profits where you have margins around the property, around the destination, I think is definitely very, very important. Doesn't matter if it's a city hotel or a leisure property. People are still people. They can still want to explore the places where they're going, and there's always a little bit of time for the loved word pleasure. So I think that it's very relevant for every segment, and I think that the hotel industry has come late into the game of maximizing and earning revenues of everything that goes around the destination, where airlines used to come and buy our hotel rooms for peanuts and then make the money, and they have very little margin, and that's how they manage to keep their business going. So I think now we're trying to help hotels to kind of gain that space, because you're the one who knows a lot of the hotels we speak with, they're the destination. People are going there because of that hotel, not because of that island. So therefore, if you're going there because of that hotel, you have the best position to actually capture all that value that customers are willing to do, and not only capture the value, but protect the customers from having a bad experience going to a bad flamenco show or to a bad experience. So literally, you protect your brand and you make more money. So which is definitely the best way of doing it.
And I think you opened up a really good topic of conversation there. Ancillaries as an opportunity to drive more of that total revenue, and especially that lifestyle and luxury properties can really take advantage of that, because they've got a really strong opportunity to maximize that spend per guest, and plus they're really willing to spend more on the experience. And plus, we see. For instance, I was reading about the latest survey that was done by the European Travel Commission, and the guests are continuing to want to travel. 65% of the guests would not cut travel from their budget, but actually they would spend more on experiences. So I think we get the message that they're there to enjoy experiences. Now, how can we really entice that and really take the full opportunity of what we can deliver? Perhaps, Deniel, it would be good to have your view on how you're working through these ancillaries, how you're bringing in the cross-selling into the picture, how you're perhaps working on the upselling side of the business to be able to capture that additional revenue.
Well, right now we are for individual travelers, it's part of the booking process. So it's like a extra page during the booking funnel where you can select additional services. And we do have a pre-stay email where we try to encourage our guests to purchase whatever, breakfast or dinner or early check-in, late check-out, whatever. And this is right now in place. The next goal is to enhance the in-house sale through in-house messaging like WhatsApp or on the screens, or simply by the staff in the hotel. And what also focus is the front desk selling. So when the guest checks in, to be informed about the services we're having, about extra room types, whatever. What I'm trying also is to teach my people is that ancillary revenue is nice to have. Okay, so it's really good, nice, but it's also a communication method. It's about guest service. It's about providing the services we are having to the guest and to let him know what we are as a hotel are offering, instead of the guest searching what we do and what we are providing. So it's like a win-win situation. On the one hand, it's customer satisfaction, and on the other hand, it's some extra revenue, which is good too.
And ultimately, it's very helpful in being able to communicate that additional added value of the property, and especially where we're trying to capture more of that business direct, right? To avoid those cost of acquisition or steep cost of acquisition. And that leads us very nicely into the next topic of conversation, which is distribution costs. That is another big area that we need to work out so we can optimize that bottom line and really finding the right sort of balance between increasing that top line, but also optimizing that cost margin is really critical. And at the end of the day is how do we, have the right, how can we access the right data, the cost related data to manage the right distribution strategy? Pablo, perhaps from your experience, and you have a wealth of experience there that you could share with us, what are the main KPIs that we need to bring into this analysis, and how can we refine, or better said, how do we define and refine our distribution strategies to optimize that cost of distribution?
Well, first of all, having very, very clear what kind of distribution you have. And I will question that if everyone has a real picture of a distribution map, exactly what is the percentage of their customers coming from each of the different channels. Obviously, in most cases, everyone would like to have 100% of customers coming directly from their own the brand.com channel, but that's not really viable in some destinations. I was in an event in Gran Canaria last week, and obviously being a remote island in the Canaries, they really rely a lot on tour operators or wholesalers. So they need to still have a big chunk of their distribution coming from that source. But then you can be, sorry to say, but lazy and leave it as it is and say, well, it's been like that for the last 30, 40, 50 years. We're fine, we make money, leave it as it is. Or you can start trying saying, okay, fine. What if a certain percentage of that I can convert into direct? And how much is direct costing me? But that's also very important. I mean, do we all know exactly how much the direct channel is costing me? Because some people might tell you it's free, it's direct, So the person in reservations, if they pick up the phone, it's free, right? They're part of my team. But careful there, right? Because sometimes some direct bookings might be more expensive than some third-party ones, right? But having said that, it's about being proactive and say, okay, knowing where each booking is coming from, how can I change the trend slightly towards a more profitable channel, if it's possible for me, given destination, but really be proactive on that change.
And Alex, you bring all that and you're cooking all that technology in house. How do you facilitate this investigation into
Absolutely.
the element?
So we do a couple of things. So when we set up the let's say the RMS for hotels, we actually put the distribution cost for each one of the channels. I was having a very interesting conversation with a hotelier that I know for, 15, 20 years yesterday from a very large chain. And we were talking about how we need to actually see the dynamic cost of each channel. Because if you end up, let's say, closing booking.com, you get penalized, and you end up going to page 2 if you do that. So basically, sometimes closing that rate doesn't really make a lot of sense. So you're really trying to yield that last room, availability, and making sure that you can actually, not get penalized for closing is a very interesting conversation topic to have. But more so, I think that the large chains are going to start opening the doors to a very interesting conversation with channels, which is basically dynamic commissions and costs depending on the occupancy the hotels have at any given time. So I think that what we're trying to do and we're trying to work is how do we help hotels on that, let's say, battle, but on that partnership more than a battle with the OTAs to really try and work together so they can get their higher profit margins, but without getting penalized for trying to do that by just basically closing the rates on their direct channel, also on let's say on Booking or Expedia, because you get penalized anyway, and that's going to cost you money. So what you're saving for 3 or 4 rooms is going to cost you maybe 3 or 4% in the next couple of weeks because you're going to be, dumped for the page 3, page 4. So it's a very interesting conversation to have. I think it's what we're doing at our platform is really giving visibility and having the ability to really show you what's happening in your distribution. So more than closing a channel and keeping your direct channel open only, enabling you to actually have a healthy conversation with the OTA and say, hey, look, I'm super busy over here. I don't want to close you out, but I need to could perhaps, yield my commission with you, because otherwise I have to close, and I don't want to close because, I know I'm going to get penalized anyway. So I think information is power, and I think that's why we're trying to give hotels this visibility, this full screen and full control of being able at any given point, just having a click and having the full view of what, where are my rooms coming from today? 30% from Booking, 20% from Expedia, 15% direct, 10% OTA through operation, and so on. So really having that information at the tip of your hands, I think is super powerful, and it really gives you the ability to do what Pablo was saying, like what makes sense for me, what doesn't make sense for me, and then I think that's the way to go. I think information is power, and we're here to empower hoteliers. That's what we're trying to achieve, really.
And getting down to that, to understand that cost of distribution is really essential. So obviously revenue management system is the first point to go to be able to get that sort of visibility. But you talked about the direct channel there, especially Pablo, finding the right balance and understanding that cost of acquisition. But overall, industry-wide, there's a common agreement that the direct channel is the most profitable channel to be focusing on, and it's also an opportunity for us to grow also the value of our booking, to be able to present and communicate the added value that we're able to provide to that guest booking direct versus the OTA. And keeping all channels open is essential, right? But it's also sometimes just telling that guest, okay, you can still get your best rate guarantee through your direct channel, and compared to the OTAs, we're still on par, or if not potentially better. So Daniel, it'd be really nice to get your view in terms of how do we communicate that best rate guarantee to the guest, and how do we ultimately treat the direct channel as our of strategy focused on driving that cost optimization and on driving that total value of customer lifetime value.
So I guess I have to make one statement, is that yes, the direct channel is the most profitable one, but it's not free of charge. So we have to spend also some money to direct the customer towards our brand.com. So, and on the other hand, our OTA partners like Booking.com and Expedia are super important to us. So we rely on them, they rely on us. However, we do have a clear strategy in place to drive direct revenue. It's very important for us. It strengthens our brand.com, our brand. It drives more profitability. And what we do a lot is driving our loyalty scheme rates. So it's all about focusing on them, distributing them through each and every meta channel, which is there to have really the best rate and the best rate guarantee, and to display to the customer on Trivago, on Google Hotel Finder, on TripAdvisor, and also on some minor channels. And then on the other hand, we have to focus on the customer itself. So once the customer has been with us, booked through whatever channel, OTA channel, we have to have a strategy in place to target him for his next stay and the stay afterwards, because this is our unique possibility to capture this customer. Is, well, leave it once with the OTA, but for the next time and the time after, it's in our hands, and we have to find ways to convert him to a direct booker. Latest at check-in.
Absolutely, and I think another big opportunity is differentiating slightly the value proposition, or differentiating as much as you can the value proposition in the direct channel versus the OTA. So you might actually have a category of room that you can only get online through your direct channel, or specific benefits that you're only getting through a direct channel. It's very good topic for conversation there. I think we've had some very good insights into this conversation, into this topic. Ultimately, I think data is something we need to consider. It is our most valuable asset that we can use to enable this transition to profit management. And just the very last point, Enzo, I'd like to pass the word to Alex. Tell us about the importance of having an integrated tech stack and, you know, managing this whole processes and really being able to enable reaction to market, but also to connect all these dots towards this sustainable profitability.
Gosh, like Chris, for me, this is probably the most critical piece of work that there is to be done in any hotels. So basically what we're doing, and I think that, you know, the reason why we're doing what we're doing is because hotels are absolutely overwhelmed with the amount of technology pieces that are out there today. The reality is, do we need technology? Yes, we do. Can we afford having, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 platforms to run our hotel? We can't. It's not sustainable. It's not physically sustainable. So therefore, what we do is we're trying to help hotels to really, you know, handpick pieces of technology that can streamline, reduce, consolidate, and make it sustainable from a user perspective from the hotel. So when you have a sustainable, let's say, usability of technology, you can actually extract value out of it. So, for example, Daniel was talking about, you know, how do we get more revenue? How do we use a direct channel? So for example, if you don't have a guest messaging platform, go and get one today. Don't do anything else, because basically with guest messaging, you can actually, you know, communicate 100 times faster than you do by email. You can talk to your guests, create a direct relationship, sell all the experiences around your hotel to really capture all that value. So I mean, there's some really basic things. And for example, why would you use a platform that only does check-in? I mean, use a guest messaging platform that does check-in, check-out, guest communication, speaks 100 languages, whatever. So there's like 5 or 6 in the market that do that. I don't understand why you'd buy, you know, a check-in platform, a guest messaging platform, a concierge platform, and the QR platform, QR code platform to sell things around the hotel. So like, for example, there's so many of them that can do that. And that's effectively the most important piece of technology that can actually generate revenue, retain revenue, and really build a strong relationship with hotels that, you know, without that you would never have. So I think that's kind of the catalyzer for sustainable profitability. It's creating that bond with your customer, where you can actually offer them a better experience, offer them things that you end up getting a kick out of it. You know, you're going to get a commission out of an experience that you love and you have curated for your customer, and you're protecting your destination, so the customer will want to come back to you, because you won't even have the opportunity to go to the wrong place. So I think that the technology to really make that, let's say, seamless, it's super important. So I think for any hotelier that's watching this, I think, you know, if you've got an RMS, you've got your PMS, you've got all your stuff sorted, don't have a guest messaging platform, go and get that done, because that's going to make you able to actually, you know, really make your hotel sustainable. And you know, it's really interesting, sustainable in terms of profits, right? Because you can generate, retain, and build a relationship with your customer with proper customer lifetime value, giving the guest information on demand, not something that, you know, send an email, wait at the reception, call the phone, and nobody picks up because there's only one receptionist. So basically, I think the use of technology is super important. And ChatGPT can actually automate a lot of the stuff that you couldn't before as well. So I think what's happening now is really the tip of the iceberg. So I think it's a very important time for hotels to really take the leap to becoming more sustainably profitable.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for such a productive conversation. Hopefully there's some good takeaways for everyone watching. Thanks very much, Enzo, for lining this up, and over to you.
Yeah, fantastic. So it was a very insightful conversation. So I hope the audience got some inspiration about this, you know, challenge, RevPAR versus GoPAR. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Pablo. Thanks, Alex. And hope to see you soon on air with us. Bye.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you.